Hey, good morning, good morning. Good morning, everybody. It's the Will Marotti Show, your host, Will Marotti. AT, our extraordinary engineer and producer, crack researcher, LJ. Assisting AT is GG, and our lovely call screener, Roz, waiting to take your calls with bated breath. 860-788-4448. Wow. I'm glad there's no news to talk about today. I'm glad nothing exciting's happened in the last 24 hours. But seriously, though, I mean, if you watched the debate last night, I don't care, Republican, Democrat, Independent, Communist, you had to say, this is not good. This is really not good. I mean, I was largely horrified at what I saw last night, what I heard. And I'm reading some comments, and I'm starting to believe, yes, it was probably true. This debate last night was a setup because Democrats had been suggesting to the Biden camp that Joe decide not to run. Apparently, that message was not penetrating, or was not being received well. And I think this was a total setup by the Democrats, by CNN, to showcase the inability of Joe Biden to lead this country. And, it's no surprise. Who did they have? Who did CNN have in the wings waiting to make comments immediately after the debate? Gavin Newsom, Kamala Harris. And of course, they're not going to throw them under the bus, but just their presence and their availability lets you know that people are talking. Joe Scarborough suggested, I mean, when you lose MSNBC, it's pretty bad. Joe Scarborough suggesting that Joe step aside. Rachel Maddow last night trying to make sense of it. That's what I did. As soon as the debate was over, I went to CNN and I watched it on Fox, and really didn't matter. All the networks were carrying it, but no one could make comments on it. And it was 100% CNN owned it. I don't know what the overnight ratings are, but it's going to keep CNN in business for another few months anyway. But even Rachel Maddow was trying to make sense of it. You could tell. I mean, this was the hardcore progressives were as clear as could possibly be. This is it. This is the end. I mean, this is stuff that I was hearing was unbelievable. There was some kind of a little rally held afterwards, and Joe Biden was like talking to Joe like he was a kindergarten student. Joe, you answered all the questions correctly. You knew what to say to Trump. And then she turns to the crowd and she goes, and Donald Trump, didn't even wait for it. She had to lead it. Donald Trump lied. And of course, the truth, the fact checkers, which is kind of an oxymoron to begin with, because these are all they're not nonpartisan people. These are all liberals, the fact checkers. And the only defense they could come up with this disaster was that, Trump lied about everything. Well, he didn't. Did he exaggerate? Perhaps. Hyperbole? Perhaps. Did he actually lie about stuff? A couple of times. Wrong facts, misstated things. Good morning, Dawn. Good morning, Luke. Priscilla, good morning. Selma, good morning. Izzy, good morning. Chris F., good morning. Jeff B., good morning. Elaine P., good morning. Valerie, good morning. Doreen Z., good morning. Melissa, good morning. Sandy B., good morning. Perry says, I didn't watch him voting for Trump. And he watched Frasier. My other favorite show is Frasier. Greg P., good morning. Lori L's back. Hey, Lori. Judy P., good morning. Donna T., good morning. PK, good morning. Perry says it's 80 degrees in Louisiana right now. How wonderful. Carol, Lori, Eric, good morning. Janessa, good morning. I think, Lori says, Joe had a cold. Listen, here's what happened. This is the worst thing ever. Again, a mistake 100% on the Biden camp. The first few words were signaling how this was going to go. When you heard how hoarse, how weak Joe's voice was, they said, moments before, oh, he's got a cold. Well, they should have led with that. That we should they could have helped themselves if they had prepared people for the fact that Joe was sick and that he was fighting off a cold or sore throat or whatever it was. But they said nothing, and so it was. Good morning, Caitlin. Lori F. Good morning. So it was just a shock. It was like, oh my gosh, what's wrong with them? They have throat cancer. What's going on? It's just horrible. And then then it was, Kamala Harris said, oh well, it was a slow start but a strong finish. Come on. I mean, I guess what are you going to say? You can't throw your guy under the bus, right? But anyway, so we're Reese is coming on WAC FM. Reese is coming on at 9:33. We're gonna do it's almost too sad to even do the bingo thing right now. But I took copious notes last night, and I'll share a lot of that stuff with you. And I have a stack, unbelievable stack of things to go through. But I would like to hear some of your comments, if you would. 860-788-4448. Town hall, now conservative. CNN post debate, absolutely brutal for Joe Biden. I went to CNN first, and I couldn't believe how, ruthless the panel was, and what they were saying. The least horrible comment says, well, it wasn't a good night for Joe. Just like, this is over. Lori says she thought the format worked well and that the moderators were more than fair. I agree. I say from a Trump perspective, I was shocked at how good, they're not, but the moderators were decent. But again, the moderators were good because I think this was a setup. This was all a plan to off Biden. And now they've got, and Trump released right after the debate, Trump released a brutal ad. However they do this quickly, I know it's money and I know it's very skilled people. Trump released a brutal ad highlighting all of the Biden flubs in the debate. And that will play over, that will go viral. It will play over and over and over again until Biden steps aside, or here's another one. This is from this is off CNN, comments to CNN. Joe Biden had to lead Joe Biden off the stage. Absolutely true. This is other things. These are from Democrats now. Organized mutiny. Jackie Heinrich, former White House communications director, says, yikes. Trump War Room, when you've lost MSNBC. It was really bad. It was ugly. It was difficult to let's see, what should I do here? We'll take a shot at this, I guess, but I'm not sure who this is. They didn't talk to Roz, so I'm not sure who this is. Good morning. Someone from Hartford. How are you?
No, good morning. It's Lori from Glastonbury.
Oh, hi. You did.
Hi. Yeah, no, sorry. I didn't give Roz my name. That was my bad. I'm sorry. Okay. I had a little Joe Biden moment, and I just forgot to give my name.
We won't penalize you this time, Lori, but from now on, it's going to be $1.50 fine if you don't talk to Ross. Okay.
Fair enough. I wanted to, so many impressions from last night. I think the most vivid impression is just looking at the physical comparison between the two men. Mr. Biden just looked ancient, and it was not confidence inspiring at all. And then you went to CNN and MSNBC. I actually watched it via the Daily Wire because I don't have cable. And it was very interesting to hear Ben Shapiro say that they have to jump through some serious hoops to try and replace him at this time. The only real option they have is to convince him to step down. But then how do they get beyond we're just going to skip right over Kamala Harris. It's going to look very, very bad. So their options
they don't
limited.
care. Here, it's a simple process. Democrats have something that Republicans don't have. Democrats have what's called super delegates. Super delegates have a much higher weight factor than regular delegates. If Biden says he's not going to run, finish out his term, they will dump Kamala overboard faster than Jonah and the whale. And so and so the super delegates will completely carry the night at the convention, and they will nominate Gavin Newsom.
Well, I mean, Gavin Newsom, I feel like that's not necessarily a great option either. I mean, there might be some women who might be like, oh, well, he's cute, I'll vote for him. But if you just look with your eyes at California and the
dumpster fire
nightmare, oh my gosh, yeah. I pray for California all the time because clearly God's been trying to get their attention. He has thrown every manner of weather at them for the past year. Like,
Lori, let me just interrupt you for a second. It's 9/11, so it's time for our 911 prayer. So I'm going to ask you to join us in prayer. Let's gather our thoughts together, shall we? Heavenly Father, God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, we come before you grateful today, Lord. We're thankful for all that you've done for us. We're thankful for our lives. We're thankful for friends, family. We're thankful for your love, your grace, your mercy, your patience, and most of all, your forgiveness. And God, help us as a nation today. We help us to not take any joy or be happy about what happened last night. It was a tragedy. It should never have happened, because not only were Americans watching this, but our enemies were watching this last night. And it's put us in a very vulnerable place that is not a comfortable place for our country to be in. So first and foremost, God, please protect our country. Please protect our country from those who would do harm to us and try to destroy us and attack us at a weak and vulnerable moment. We pray for our military, that you would protect all the men and women in our military, keep them from harm's way, that you would confound the plans of those who want to harm us and strike against us, and comfort the families of the military ones who are separated from them right now. God, we just this was horrible, and we are not the shining light upon the hill anymore. We are the laughing stock of the world. We are incredibly vulnerable and exposed, and we need your help, God. We need your help. And I pray that tens of thousands, millions of people today would turn to you and ask for your help, your wisdom, your guidance, but most importantly, your protection. And thank you. Thank you for all you've done for us. Help us today get through this show and do it well and honor you. And we give you thanks and praise in Jesus' name. Amen. Can I get an amen out there? Yeah. So it was. There was nothing good about this, Lori. And the problem is, not only were we watching, China was watching, Russia was watching, Iran was watching, and this morning, right now, in Tehran, in Beijing, in Moscow, these people are already having conversations and meetings. They've been talking all night and saying, what can we get away with in the next 6 months? How far can we push this? Because, like it or not, Joe Biden's our president for the next 6 months, unless he dies. There's no other way around it. And it puts us in an incredibly vulnerable position. And I don't know. We just got to pray for the country, because this is horrible. This is horrible. Lori, we've got a guest coming up, so I'm going to say thank you for calling. We're going to let you go, and stay tuned. We got David X Sullivan coming up, and then Reese on the radio to do a post-mortem on the debate. Okay. Thanks again. Appreciate you. Lori, everybody. Thank you. Lori from Glastonbury, one of our very, very faithful listeners. So we're grateful for that. All right. Let's see. I asked David Sullivan to come on, and I do want to talk about a couple of Supreme Court. Okay. Let's see. I sent it to your I'm just okay, let's hang out for a minute and see if this works, because we may have to get we have to shift gears here for a second for David X Sullivan. Let's see. Pick a time. No. Pick a time. Let's see. No, don't do that. Don't do that. Okay. All right. Let's not do that at all. Okay. All right. So let's see if that got through. So there were a couple of recent Supreme Court decisions extremely, well, I think extremely important, and I wanted to talk to David about two of them, and we're trying to get him on here. I'm just trying to. Do we have him yet, Alex, or no? Okay, I'm rebooting to something that he needs me to do. Little technical, not even a difficulty, but it's something that we must do. Okay, we are typing feverishly away here, and as soon as we do this, I think it's going to be good for. Okay, and let me just hit send here. Okay, all right. Okay, let's see. The beauty of live stuff like this, that we have these things going on. Okay, all right. So we'll give a couple of moments, and I'm sure we're going to have David X Sullivan with us. Two Supreme Court decisions that I wanted to talk about, both highly super important. One, if you're a Second Amendment person, you want to know about this. And the other, I think, has absolute impact on the case, on the conviction, the Trump conviction. I think it's incredibly important. And so we want to talk about that. So we'll have David in just a moment, and then Reese will be on the line at 9:33, and we'll talk more debate. And then after Reese, we'll take some calls as well. So there's a lot going on, and we're trying to do that. But there, this is for this term. June is the big month. All of the decisions get released, and there was a couple of big ones, and one having to do with Second Amendment, and I want to hear David's thoughts on it. The other having to do with Fifth and Sixth Amendment, and whether or not the jury in a case has to be unanimous in their decision. And the reason that's so important is because Judge Merchant in the what's called the hush money case with Donald Trump gave bizarre instructions to the jury that they didn't have to all agree on one count. They could pick a count. That was almost like a cafeteria style jury. It was just crazy. That things were going on like this, and so okay. Are we? Do we have David there? No, not yet. Okay. Well, maybe he's listening. Let's see. Okay. Let me. You can also call. Yeah, I did send him the link. I want to see if he'll pick up on it. 860-788-4448 while we're waiting for David. He may have to utilize the phone as well, but we'll see. So let me talk about the first case. The first case is USSR, United States versus Rahimi, and it was a 6-3 decision. And here's the summary of it. The court reversed and remanded the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals. The court held that when an individual has been found by a court to pose a threat to physical safety of others, temporarily disarming that individual does not violate the Second Amendment. And that's a clarification of USC 922G8. So a lot of people, this would be considered red flag law. So domestic dispute, maybe Perry, domestic dispute, and a potential case for physical injury, harm, threat, danger. Let's say the wife or the husband has a permit, has a firearm. If the court decides, so this is not just a on a whim. I don't think the police can do this. I think, according to this, if the court, if a person by a court has been found to pose a physical threat or safety to others, they can temporarily disarm them. They can take their weapon. They can suspend their permit. I know that staunch Second Amendment folks will still protest this based on the slippery slope argument. But I have to say, as a pastor, and knowing the number of spousal murders that have taken place, I mean, sure, can they do it? Can they strangle the person? Of course. Can they hit him with a club? Of course. Can they kill him with a knife? It's been done. But the obvious thing is, if they have a gun, um, there needs to be a cooling off period. I'm not saying it's permanent suspension. I know people will disagree with me on this, but I think it's a sound decision. Again, coming from decades of experience and seeing abuse and recognizing abuse. So in fact, someone that I knew from high school was killed by her husband in a domestic dispute, and so it's just no David, huh? No, okay. Let's see. Well, we can't. I don't know. Maybe he'll call in. We'll see. Let's see. What do we want to do here? Well, okay. Let's just keep going. So that was the first court, and that now USS versus Rahimi. The second one is not as clear, and this is really why I wanted to have David, because there's a lot of things attached to this. Okay. This is Ellinger versus United States, 6-3 opinion. So again, not unanimous at all, and not totally agreed to by the conservative justices. Here's the summary: the court vacated and remanded the Seventh Court of Appeals. The court held that in order to prevent Fifth and Sixth Amendment violations when imposing an enhanced sentence under the Armed Career Criminal Act, certain requirements must be met. These requirements include a unanimous jury verdict and proof beyond a reasonable doubt that the defendant's prior offenses were committed on separate occasions. And that's what I need to talk to David about, because I don't understand fully. I don't understand fully what that means. I don't understand. And does this even apply? Does this even apply to the hush money case, because it's under the Armed Career Criminal Act, the ACCA? We always have acronyms for everything. But again, it's saying the jury has to be unanimous. Now, I've always thought, help me if I'm wrong, 860-788-4448. Help me if I'm wrong. I always thought when there was a jury involved, there had to be a unanimous decision. Otherwise, it ends up in what's called a hung court. That one juror doesn't want to do it. It's a hung court, right? So I've always thought unanimous decisions were the requirement in a jury trial. It's not majority wins. It's everybody agrees, because you've made the case beyond a reasonable doubt. It's just about 100% sure. So I'm not sure. Good morning, Carl. Marianne L. Good morning, Donna T. Good morning. I'm not sure. We do. He's coming on right now. Okay, looks like we got David X Sullivan coming in here. We're waiting for his camera to be on, and looks good. Looks like we're making progress. Guys, this is our 15th show in our third week, and all I can tell you is that we're doing our very best, but we still have a few bugs and kinks to work out. All right, do we have audio of David? If not video, let's see if we get audio of David. Go ahead.
Bill, can you hear me?
All right, David, can you hear us?
I can hear you. Can you hear me?
I can. Yes, we can't see you though.
I've been working on that.
Well, welcome to the show. Thank you. We'll just talk to you right now.
Okay.
Before we get into these two cases that I want your clarification on, one that I'm a little fuzzy on the understanding. I want to give you an opportunity. Did you hear the debate? What's your initial impression of what happened last night?
I did watch it. There were no real surprises. Substantively, it's so interesting because when the debate ended, I immediately jumped over to CNN and MSNBC,
Right.
and all of their political pundits were shocked.
Yeah.
And this is the same Joe Biden that was in his basement 4 years ago.
Right.
And they really lifted the curtain. And I think they were running away from any accountability here. It's very odd that a sitting president would have a June presidential debate before a convention actually nominates him again.
Right.
And
Right.
with the power of incumbency, why would you do this at all? So I really think that they knew that they could not contain the narrative that they've created for the past 4 years. And they let the American people make their own decisions last night, unfiltered. And then they were shocked. And now they're all scrambling. If they do not go with Joe Biden, which is going to be very difficult, and they don't go with Kamala Harris, what they're essentially saying is not only is Joe not fit, which is what the special counsel essentially said, that he's a kindly old man, but don't think
failing memory.
Right. He wasn't essentially fit to stand trial, and now he's not fit to be president. If Kamala Harris does not, get the second opportunity here, and they do a complete departure, I really think that's going to be very difficult for the left to spin. So either he stays, he has those committed delegates. It's the super delegates that may try and assert some type of influence here. But otherwise, I think they have a lot of problems. And I was disappointed overall last night. There were so many great numbers from the past administration and so many terrible numbers from this administration that if you put them really next to each other, you don't have to have a lot of rhetoric or discussion. I mean, the fact is both men have had the opportunity to lead this country. Inflation was at 1.4%. It went up almost to 9%.
Mm-hmm.
When they asked a question about drugs and fentanyl and opioids, and they phrased it in the addiction treatment manner, I had to laugh, and it was not a good laugh because there is no fentanyl treatment.
Right.
If fentanyl is poisoning, you don't have fentanyl addiction. You have fentanyl deaths.
Right.
Close the border. Had the border been closed, had the wall been built, drugs would have not been, completely dispensed with, but they wouldn't be dispensed on the streets liberally the way they are right now.
Sure.
That would be true of human trafficking. That would be true of all the horrific crimes that are being committed right now. And, in 2020, I was accused of trying to frighten the suburbs about crime. And look at where we are in 4 years. It's absolutely terrible. And the American people are the real losers.
Well, I think there's some misreporting going on. There's crime is down, but a lot of folks are saying, you know what, crime is down not because crime is down because a lot of it's not being reported.
That's right.
So it's hard to measure a crime that's not being reported. So we have a lot of victims, but not a lot of arrests.
Well, they were saying, I won't give the specific paper, but within 6 months, violent crime in the state of Connecticut is down. Murders and rapes are up, but violent crime is down. Well, let's think about what other violent crimes there are, if that's the way they're going to spin it. Well, you've got assaults, you've got domestic violence, you've got a host of things that you're absolutely correct are not being reported. Police officers are not writing them up. People aren't calling them in. Prosecutors that get the cases are dismissing them. And they think it's a waste of time because each step of that process doesn't have any faith in the next step of the process.
Right.
So we need to apply the laws again.
All right, we got about a minute left, and this does not give you adequate time. But I wanted to talk to you. I'm going to only talk to you about one case because I don't understand it. And it's the recent opinion. It was a 6-3 opinion by the Supreme Court, Erlinger versus United States. And it was a 5th and 6th Amendment violation possibility. And what I don't understand is, does this apply? They said you have to have a unanimous jury. Now, this is under the Armed Career Criminal Act.
Right.
Does the unanimous jury portion of that decision go back to, and could it apply to the Trump hush money case that, Judge Merchant gave these incredibly convoluted instructions to the jury. Is there some linkage or connection there, or does this only apply to armed career criminals?
This really only applies to Armed Career Criminal Act scenarios. In Erlanger, it was a gun violation under 924 of Title 18. And what they had to prove, if somebody's an armed career criminal, what they have to prove is that there were 3 prior convictions for violent felonies, or that there were 3 serious prior drug offenses. This sort of backs into Apprendi, a case that the Supreme Court decided that judges may not assume a jury's fact-finding function. And when judges did that, they were looking at the facts, saying by a preponderance of the evidence standard, which is simply more likely than not that this crime was in fact committed. Here, it's very narrow. They're talking about violent criminals, and it's really more along the lines of enhanced penalties for sentencing purposes. That would not apply to the Trump case. What you're thinking about with the Trump case is, I think, that a jury has to be unanimous in, arriving at a verdict. And in this instance, when they were saying he committed this one crime of labeling this payment as a legal expense to conceal another crime, the judge instructed them that you don't have to all agree on what that other crime was.
Okay.
Nothing has ever been proven. He was never charged.
Right.
The FEC did not even find him civilly. And so that's about as similar as it really gets.
Okay.
It comes down to fundamental fairness, Will, and that's where I think it strikes a nerve with you.
Well, it does, and I think it strikes a nerve with a lot of us. David, I'm sorry for the technical difficulty. We'll do better next time. Thank you so much I know this is a short call. Thank you so much for coming on, and we'll talk to you real soon again. Thank you. David X Sullivan, a partner with McCarter & English, a great firm, offices throughout the country. They handle a litany of different kinds of cases and charges, and so we're just a great firm, and we're so grateful to have you and being able to take time out of your schedule to be with us. So, David, thank you so much, and we'll talk to you soon.
Thank you, Will. Have a great weekend.
Okay. All right, Alex, I'm going to call an audible at the line here. We're going to skip the break, and we're going to go right to WAC FM's Reese on the radio. Also, I called Reese in late on this because I just didn't want to let the bingo scores fade away. Reese, are you there?
Yeah, I'm here. Can you hear me? I've got to do this remotely, but I'm definitely here and ready to go.
All right, thank you, sir. I appreciate your flexibility. First of all, I know you watched last night. What was your first take? What do you think of what happened last night?
How do we put this? I think it's safe to say that I want to say that the Democrat Party last night is on the second stage of the 5 stages of grief. There had been denial beforehand that this was not a doddering old man. We've been told that he wasn't a doddering old man, that he was going to be able to perform effectively for this debate. They were complaining about the bar had been set too low, and that was an insult to the president of the United States. And it started from the moment he struggled. I want to say sort of stammered his way to that podium. And within the first 5 to 10 minutes, it was off to the races, where he became, it was bad. And when you heard the Democrats afterwards just talking about how horrible of a performance it was, I think people got it. I think they figured it out immediately. And it was sad to watch. There was no cheering on the Republican side last night.
There should be no cheering for anybody. That was painful.
It was.
Because the problem is, I said this earlier, the problem is I did what David X Sullivan, our last guest, did. I went right to CNN and MSNBC. And Joe Scarborough has already said Biden should step aside. And when you lose
Yeah.
Joe Scarborough and you lose Rachel Maddow, it's over. And so
Absolutely.
everybody was in meltdown mode, how horrible it was, but the problem is it wasn't just us watching the debate last night. It was people in Tehran, it was people in Beijing, it was
That's
people in
right.
Moscow, and they are all been meeting all night trying to figure out how far can we push this country in the next 6 months. That's the discussion they're having.
Well, you know what? I'll tell you, you know what I think the first discussion is, and I think people need to recognize this. And libercrats, as I refer to them, need to recognize that with everything you said to us from 2017 to 2020 about what we looked like on the world stage with a President Donald J. Trump, where are you today?
Yeah.
The world was watching Joe Biden last night. And with everything that you can say about Donald Trump, you could be embarrassed, you can still hate him all you want. The bottom line is, where are you today with what the world witnessed with Joseph R. Biden? And look, if I'm making fun of anyone, it is the people who have lied to us and told us there was nothing to worry about. That don't believe our own eyes. These are cheap fakes, and he's sharp as a tack. As Scott Jennings said last night, which I thought he was the most poignant person on that CNN panel, when he said every person who talked to us in the last 2 to 3 weeks was lying to us, and they are outed today.
Yeah.
And when I said the five stages of grief that the Democrat Party is going through, if there's anything that I'm waiting for, is my favorite part of the 5 stages: bargaining. Because where are you going? What are you going to bargain?
Because
Well, that's
the
what's going to happen.
hardcore progressive last night, and I watched a podcast, and this was the same guy that was having a meltdown in the 2016 election. He was like, "This can't. And F this and F that." I mean, the guy, and he said last night, "This is it. This is over. There is no way that Biden can beat Trump. There's only people crazy." He said, "You have to be crazier than Trump to believe that Biden can win this." But everybody was talking replacement. What do we do now? No surprise that they had Gavin Newsom in the wings at CNN ready to make comment. Of course, Gavin's not going to throw Joe under the bus, but of course, the juxtapositioning of a stumbling, staggering, bumbling old man and strikingly handsome Gavin Newsom, who's very articulate. I mean, come on, seriously. But I mean,
can we acknowledge something about the whole Gavin Newsom thing? And I've been thinking about this for a little bit, Pastor Will. We're 130 days. Is it like 130 days from election day?
Something like that, yeah.
Yeah, something like that, right? We've got the convention coming up very soon. Now, if I'm Gavin Newsom, Gavin Newsom needs to understand something, and I think the Democrat Party, who's talking about Gavin Newsom replacing Joe Biden, need to recognize something. One, Gavin Newsom is too close to the debacle that is the state of California. All of that is on record, and it's part of recent memory. Mm-hmm. If he becomes the candidate, it sticks with you. And we're saying sticking with you like gum on your shoe. The abysmal rate that he's got to deal with. For the first time in 20 years, California is below 40 million in population. You're hemorrhaging people. He's blamed so much recently in his State of the State address. He went so far as to blame Republicans that don't pretty much exist in California for the reason why California is struggling. Right. All of that is in recent memory. He can't run a campaign with that gum on his shoe, so he can't be the nominee. So what they have to do is, and this is my view, and maybe I'm prognosticating in some degree, but I think I'm correct here. You destroy the political future of Kamala Harris by running her as the nominee in 2016. This way you destroy her politically. She gets annihilated. She can't get elected as dog catcher in California, and you send her packing so that you can set up the stage for DeSantis, Newsom, or anybody else in the wing that will run against him, who will run against Gavin Newsom in 2028. Because Gavin Newsom has got to get as far away from California as possible, and he needs 4 years to do it.
Well, I think you're right there. I mean, no one can be blamed more for California dumpster fire than Gavin Newsom. I mean, he's been at the helm. Even they tried to recall him, the recall failed, but I don't think that necessarily proves anything. But here's the question: I think now there's no question about the fact that if Biden is the candidate, he's toast. CNN ran their own poll last night. 65% of CNN's audience said Trump won. It's over.
66 to 33 was the exact number. And you want to talk about what's telling than that. The polling on CNN, the favorable of Biden CNN, Joe Biden did worse than the national approval rating for Joe Biden. He's at 37%.
Yeah.
He did worse on CNN at that stage.
Trump's approval went to an all-time high yesterday before the debate. So, the question I think is, who is Trump's VP? Because I don't think Trump needs any help at this point from anybody.
I don't think it matters. I don't think it matters.
Well, I think it matters because who's going to be there in the next election?
Okay, fair question.
Who's 28? Now, we're gonna try to right the ship. Does he have enough time to make America great again? It's so messed up. Who knows what he can pull off in 4 years? But we need 2028. That's the critical year.
Okay, so we've got ourselves a bind, right? You got to go to a guy like, and I think people are buzzing about this. Goodness gracious. I can't believe I'm going to say it. You got to go with JD Vance. You got to go with him.
Why?
He's in Ohio. Ohio is a swing state, even though it's very red right now. You got to go with JD Vance. Unfortunately, do you go with the caveat with JD Vance and you say, JD Vance, this doesn't guarantee that you're the nominee in 2028? Because maybe the old saying needs to go away that DeSantis is in the wing, much like Mitt Romney had to wait for John McCain.
Right.
Like I like the idea that, they sort of face off. Jeb Bush was supposed to be the guy in 2016, right? So, and Donald Trump came in, and that people hate the legacy deal when it comes to their nominee. They feel as though, the nominee is selected and not elected. Maybe JD Vance goes in and says, hey, JD, just because you're the vice presidential candidate doesn't mean you're a shoo-in behind DeSantis. Many people are behind DeSantis and would like to see him run as president.
Why not DeSantis now? Why not DeSantis now as VP?
Well, I'm understanding that you can't have two candidates in Florida. If that's
So
I think somebody would have to move.
I keep thinking Trump's a New Yorker, but not anymore.
So do I. But he pretty much renounced his residency in New York City. So look, the guy that I was looking for, and I know that it's an improbable, but another former New York guy, I wanted Byron Donalds. I think that Byron Donalds, not that he's got a chance of being president, it's a little too soon for him. He's very young, but I like Byron Donalds as the vice presidential candidate, not because he wins with black votes, is because I think that Byron Donalds is a great.
I like him.
If you're going to replace Kamala Harris with that office, you got to do Byron Donalds.
I think this puts Trump in and puts the Republicans in such a unique position. You're always looking at who's going to win the most votes for you, who's going to win a swing state for you. That's irrelevant at this point. That's irrelevant.
It's driver's seat. Look, the Republicans are in the driver's seat.
Yeah. And that's why I say I think we have to look long and hard. And I don't know that Trump, I think when Trump makes up his mind, it's a done deal. He may have already had that pick in mind. He maybe already has decided on the VP, and doesn't matter what he says. What I do have to say about Trump last night, I want two things. I want to say first about the moderators. I was shocked, and maybe not. I was shocked at how the moderators were at least seemingly trying to be fair, but then I wasn't. If you agree with the people that say this whole thing was a setup, was a setup to off Joe Biden. CNN set it up. The moderators set up. Why would you have a debate in June? You look at all the dates of all other presidential debates. There's September, maybe October, but hardly ever before a convention. Hardly ever. So
do you know what I think that was about? Let me tell you something. First of all, CNN has never. I always say, if you want to understand CNN and what they did last night, remember CNN Plus?
Yeah.
They got that demonstrably wrong, right? They thought that people would pay to watch a show that they didn't watch for free, right? So CNN has got horrible business practices. As we say in the hood, they're hustling backwards over at CNN. Okay? And with that, I want you to say, what did we get last night? CNN was under the impression by cutting off microphones
Yeah.
and not having an audience, they were taking the opportunity away from Donald Trump to score points with an audience, with the live audience.
Right.
They thought this was going to keep Donald Trump from having those sound bites that were going to be winning for him, that could be played over and over again and become memes. It ended up kind of sticking them in the butt because Donald Trump was poised. He surprised them. As we said on the show yesterday, right here, I told you, Donald Trump learns from his mistakes. And last night, he was so poised, stood upright, and he even came off, no matter what you think of him, he came off as somebody who was patient and less predictable.
Yes.
Because they thought they had him. And he still, he had two great killer lines. My favorite one was, I don't know what he said just there. I don't even think
I was just going to say,
It was, again, it didn't need an audience. We all felt it. Everybody was in the room and had the same reaction to that point. My favorite part about that is before he says it, they do a split screen, and the director, who was wise enough not to turn away, that split screen showed Donald Trump looking over.
Like, what are you talking
at
about?
Joe Biden, like, what is he rambling about? And that was caught on camera for everyone to watch. And I was on Twitter, or X, as everybody else calls it.
Yeah.
I was on there, and everyone had that clip when Donald Trump is staring at him with Joe Biden mumbling, and it was perfect for the Trump campaign because they ran an ad within the next 6-7 hours.
Yeah,
they ran an ad showing that where he looked incoherent. And Donald Trump, by the way, they show, what was it, a 95-second clip on Twitter of Donald Trump not saying a word. It's just Joe Biden talking.
That's all you got to do. Just let that go. What about now? Correct me if I'm wrong. I think the golf thing actually, I thought Biden brought up the golf thing. I don't think Trump started the golf thing. I think Biden actually mentioned something about Trump wanting to play him in golf. Do you remember that?
Well, I think Trump brought up his cognitive abilities and talking about how he just won a professional tournament.
Right.
Donald Trump did bring that up and was talking about, in order to win that, you have to be smart. He put his hand on his head and was talking about being smart. And then Joe Biden was responding to that. But here's the interesting part about that. And if you go back and watch it, I talked about this on my podcast last night afterwards. Did you notice that the CNN broke its own rules during that exchange?
Yeah, they let him talk.
They let Trump them go on. They opened both of their microphones.
100%.
Okay, and I saw that, and I caught it so quick. I just went, why? And I believe, and this is my thinking, I think that they had a producer who was watching online and showing that either people were bored or Joe Biden was losing in the court of public opinion. And they needed to mix it up a bit, and they allowed their microphones to go in that exchange so that people could get a little, fiery things between them.
Right.
And they wanted, they kind of wanted that contested sort of conversation going on, and they broke their own rules to do it because it just wasn't looking good for Joe Biden. And maybe if the mics were open, maybe Joe Biden would get a fire under his belly, and they would or in his belly, and they would start screaming at each other. But it didn't work out for him. It didn't.
No. I think we might have another. You remember back with Hillary, we had the Hillary Donna Brazile conspiracy on feeding questions. Somebody on CNN said that last night. They said that it was like Biden was prepared. He knew every question that was coming. I think it's
a lot of people notice
that those questions were all fed to Biden, and that's what he was doing in his prep for 7 days. And I mean, not that we need to put any more holes in the Biden ship, but I think that might come out. And but what do you think about this, though? We're talking Reese on the radio. What do you think about the fact that several people, Democrat people, have said this was a setup, This is a setup because Joe was not responding. Jill was not responding to Joe. You need to step aside, let somebody else. That was not being well received. And they said, okay, we got to do something that's going to put the kibosh on this. And that's the debate, the early debate.
No,
Is that even possible that they would do
no,
that?
I don't think that was a thought in their head. I think that, again, the Democratic Party was in denial. I think they've been in denial for weeks. They've been convincing us. They thought that, we wouldn't notice. And I think that they got caught flat-footed. They, they're not really reasonable people over there at the Biden administration. They wanted this in and out of the way because they didn't want this performance, if it were bad, to be something that people would remember close to the election, right? Because things happen so fast and people are forgetful. But this was epically horrible. It was just epically horrible. And the worst part, and I know we're going to get to the bingo card, but let me say this to you, okay? When you've got the stack against you, Donald Trump being the person who's got the stack against him, you've got 34 felonies, you've got the accusation of you sleeping with a porn star, you've got other court cases that are coming after you that could possibly put you in prison, and you've got your opponent who has that access to that to use it against you in a debate, and it falls flat. It wasn't even Joe Biden's performance was so abysmal. No one's talking about the fact that he called him a convicted felon. It did not resonate. Joe Biden's performance is front and center. And
all the Democrats can do, because they can't defend Biden's performance. What they are saying is, oh, Trump lied. Trump lied. Trump lied. Trump lied. But here's what was brilliant with Trump. And they kept trying to get the J6 thing to get under his skin. And they asked him, Dan Abbasi asked him about J6, and he pivoted like instantly, which shows you how smart this guy is. He goes, you know what? On January 6th, the economy was booming. On January 6th, we had lower food prices. There was no inflation. And January 6th, there were no wars going on under my. And January 6th, he just went on this litany of what was different. January. I mean, that was a brilliant. I thought that was a brilliant pivot on a very difficult question.
Right. Well, because look, he could have been held to that. Now, I'll admit, he did have another 60 seconds, I think, after that, right? I think he had 48 seconds at some point to respond. And then he came back and even responded better by saying, hey, he put it back on Nancy Pelosi. Everyone knows now. I would give 10,000, an order for 10,000 National Guards, and Nancy Pelosi is caught on tape saying that it was her responsibility. So it was a great response. He says to Jake Tapper, look, I did not tell those people to do that. In fact, I saw that, and you saw that, look, there was a lot of people there, and I tried, his response to it was well done. But you're right. I loved when he said what the state of the country was like on January 6th, which almost, if you really sort of parse his words, Pastor Will, is saying in a sort of way, the reason why people were outraged on that day was because they felt prosperous and they felt like it had been stolen from them.
Right.
And I think he was in a weird way sort of telling his constituents that on that day, the world was doing fine and all of that was going to be taken away from them. So there were some people who were obviously angry about that, who thought that their prosperity was being stolen from them.
Yes.
And I think we who were there and understand what was going on really connected with Donald Trump when he said that in that point. And I think that's why it resonated with you as well as it did with me.
Ronald Reagan, the best quality about Ronald Reagan was he was an excellent communicator. The best quality about Bill Clinton, excellent communicator. The best quality about Barack Obama, excellent communicator. The best ability of Donald Trump, excellent communicator. He knows how to talk to his people. He knows how to get those messages through. And before we get to the bingo card, let's talk about your worst moment. I have mine. Worst moment for Joe Biden last night.
Oh, I'm going to say the worst moment for Joe Biden is when he said we beat Medicare.
Oh, I can't believe you said that. Oh my gosh, great minds. I mean, he was mumbling and searching, and nobody was throwing him a lifeline, and he finally comes out with "We beat Medicaid." I mean, and Trump was masterful. Trump came back to that.
Wait a minute. And the best part about it was everyone said we need to avoid Donald Trump having a moment like he did with Hillary Clinton when he said, "Or you'd be in jail." And then Donald Trump comes back after we beat Medicare, and he says, "Yeah, you beat it to death." And I'm just going, there it is. Yeah, he got it. They tried to avoid it, and they keep giving it to him.
I mean, I can't believe we both think that's it's just amazing to me. Again, but there's no joy in this, because what are they talking about in Moscow? What are they talking about in Beijing? What are they talking about in Tehran? Where they realize that the leader of the most powerful country in the world, it's a ship without a rudder. There's no captain on board. And how can they put what? And Trump was so right. I mean, the things that have happened, Putin would have never gone into Ukraine if Trump was there. Hamas would have never gone into Israel if Trump was there. These are things that just would not have happened. The debacle in Afghanistan would never have happened if Trump was there. And I think people are sitting at home going, yeah, that's true. Yeah, that's true. I got to tell you, I think you crushed bingo last night.
Did I? I didn't think I did that well.
I thought you did. I did pretty well too, but not as well as you did.
Oh, I thought you did too. I watched it again last night.
So, worst president in history. I think Trump hit it 5 times. Worst president in history.
What did you have? 6, right?
I said 6.
Right.
Biden should go to jail. I said 4. He did 3.
Right.
He didn't talk at all of. I thought Trump would have brought in special prosecutor. I mean, he did in a way, but he didn't say specifically her about the faulty memory. Would have been tried. You'd be in jail otherwise. All right, I missed that one. Hunter's a criminal. I said Trump would say it twice. He actually said it 3 times. MAGA. I thought Trump would have been all over MAGA, but I only think twice he said "Make America Great Again."
That was it at the end, yeah.
And then inflation, I thought I had inflation 5, and I could be wrong, but I think Trump only said 4 inflation. So how did you do with your card?
Well, I'll be honest with you. I thought the convicted felon thing would come up 3 times. It only came up once.
Yeah.
That because I expected it in the opening statement in the middle of the election at the end of the debate. Was closing arguments. He only said it once, so I didn't win that. But the one that I actually did the best on was Charlottesville. And I said that was a bonus, even after we just found out that Snopes and everyone else just debunked it, that Joe Biden would mention Charlottesville, and the heck if he didn't.
Wasn't that desperation? No, I think Charlottesville was desperation for Biden.
Of course it was, and that's why it happened near the end. When he said Charlottesville, and he said that was the reason why, that was such a fib, and the fact that it had been debunked, it really, really, and the fact that he harped on it in such a way, and Donald Trump, the more he pushed back, Joe Biden tried to harp on it even more and say, yes, he did, yes, he did. It really, really made him look like Joe Biden was running his presidency from the newsroom of MSNBC. It didn't look like he was running a presidency.
Right.
And I knew that was coming up. That was the one that I did the best on. It was at Charlottesville.
You also hit it with Biden phasing out.
Oh, phasing out. I said that 9 times. Oh, did 5? Did I do 5?
I thought it was 5 or 8. I forget. But I mean, I think it was way beyond that, and that's
way beyond.
That's why the split screen was so devastating for Biden, because if it had gone Trump Biden, they could have eased that a little bit. But when you're listening on Trump talk and Biden's just like that, blank stare, mouth open. I mean, it was hard to watch. It was painful.
That was the thing. It was so because that split screen. The Daily Beast had an article about a week before, when the coin toss happened. The day of the coin toss was a couple of days before the debate. And the Daily Beast did an article that said how smart it was that the Biden campaign and the coin toss chose for Biden to be on the right-hand side of your screen, Their reasoning why they said it was so important was because most Americans watch everything from the right side.
Right.
Now, on my Sunday show, I said that makes no sense. We know that the guy has been trailing off, walking off into the distance, been seen, helped off stage by the president, by the former president Barack Obama. People have been calling it deep fakes and questioning about his acuity and all that other stuff. And I said, there's no way that Joe Biden chose the right side of the screen so there would be more focus on him. Because I said, if that's the case, America is going to be focused on this man in the state that he's in. And lo and behold, what did we get? The Daily Beast is probably scrapping that article right now.
It didn't matter. The split screen was just so devastating to
there were times when I missed what Donald Trump had to say because I kept staring at Joe Biden going, why is
me too. I said to my wife, I said, what did he say? Because I was so fixated on Biden's.
What was that? I'm watching that and I'm going, what the heck is going on?
I know.
You know what? I meant to say this. While you and I were at home playing bingo, Joe Biden was on stage playing Risk.
Yeah,
that's what was happening.
Yeah, it was a
and
horrible...
I think, and the Democrat Party was playing trouble because that's where they are right now. They're in trouble.
One of the lowest moments in American political history, in my opinion. And I think, I hope it can get better. I think, Trump's going to win, but hey, listen, Reese, thank you so much. I know it was a last minute call. I wanted to get you on now while it was still fresh in our minds but we'll talk to you Wednesday. Reese on radio, everybody. WAC FM, Reese on Radio podcast, Reese on Radio, anywhere you want to go. Just look it up. Just look at ReeseOnRadio.com.
Hey, the word of the day, pardon me, 2 words of the day is, elder abuse. That's going to be bellied about.
Yeah, I said it last night. Absolutely.
Yep.
All right, my friend.
Thanks,
have a great weekend. Talk to you next week. Thank you.
You too.
All right, everybody. Reese on Radio. Guys, we're out of time. I just want to say thank you. Whatever platform you're watching, please like, share, comment. So important. And if you're on YouTube, please subscribe so that we can give you alerts when we're coming on and news updates. We've completed now week 3. We need your help. Share the program with friends, relatives, associates, neighbors. Ask them to join you. Spotify. Thank you for listening on Spotify. That audience is growing. We couldn't be happier. We're so grateful. Thank you, AT. Thank you, LJ. Thank you, Gigi. And Roz, sorry, we didn't have a lot of work for you today, Roz, but you still get paid anyway. So it doesn't really matter. Hey, listen, if you don't have anything going on this weekend, 4:00, New Life Church, Saturday it's 4:00. Also, car wash tomorrow, Route 5, Mazzucato's Bakery, free car wash, sponsored by New Life Church. So church is 4:00 Saturday, 9:00 Sunday, 10:45. It's going to be a great message. You don't want to miss it. Great food, great music. Listen, thank you. Thank you for your support. God bless you. I love you. If I don't see you during the weekend, I'll see you Monday at 9:00.